Hello and welcome to the week ahead from the Financial Times in London. Here are some of the big stories we're watching this week. After the Manchester bombing, the UK election campaign recommences. Narendra Modi goes to Germany to talk trade, and eyes are on SpaceX as it launches its latest rocket. Election campaigning in the UK resumes in earnest this week after being suspended in the wake of the fatal bombing in Manchester. Anti-terror strategy and policing are now likely to feature more prominently in the campaign. UK Prime Minister and Conservative leader Theresa May and Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn will both be interviewed by Sky News on Monday, although the format will stop short of the head-to-head debates of 2010. Mrs May is likely to be questioned on her U-turn on social care policy, while Mr Corbyn may face questions on his plans to raise taxes and his relations with the IRA before the Northern Ireland peace agreement. Opinion polls place clear water between the Conservatives and Labour, although the gap's narrowed slightly since Mr Corbyn proposed nationalising key industries and increasing public spending. The two main parties appear to be squeezing their smaller rivals, the Liberal Democrats and the UK Independence Party, which have failed to advance in the polls. Tim Farron, the Lib Dem leader, and Paul Nuttall, the UKIP leader, will appear on BBC programmes, as will the Scottish National Party's Nicola Sturgeon and Plaid Cymru's Leanne Wood. A top priority for the next UK Prime Minister will be the future of trade deals, and that's also high on the agenda when Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, begins a two-day trip to Germany on Monday, where he'll hold talks with Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor. German officials have said they expect the two leaders to discuss trade, investment, energy and defence, with India looking to equip its armed forces with a new generation of imported weapons. German ministers will also hold separate meetings with their Indian counterparts. Kieran Stacey, South Asian correspondent, has more.
Item number one on the agenda is trade and investment, which is something both countries are keen to talk a lot about. All of which would be fine, except for the fact that Narendra Modi and India have let a string of bilateral investment treaties with European countries lapse over the last few months, because they think they can get better terms if they start again from scratch. That hasn't gone down well with European leaders, so it'd be fascinating to know what Mrs Merkel is likely to say to Mr Modi in their private meetings.
Staying with Europe, one of the worst aspects of the Eurozone crisis has been the very high unemployment rate, particularly in some of the region's weaker economies. But the Eurozone's cyclical recovery is strengthening, reflected in greater business confidence. Final readings this week for the Purchasing Managers' Index for May are expected to confirm that business activity and corporate confidence is now at its highest level for 6 years in the Eurozone. Unemployment has been falling, although it's still too high, and the latest figures on joblessness will be out this week from Eurostat, the European Commission's Statistics Bureau, and they're expected to show the rate for April remaining close to the May reading of 9.5%. Claire Jones, Frankfurt Bureau Chief, says we can expect a somewhat brighter outlook.
The picture is improving. An additional 5 million jobs have been created since the depth of the crisis, and this week we're going to see the latest unemployment figures released from Eurostat. They're likely to show that the picture in the labour market is looking a little bit better. That doesn't mean we're back to full health. There is still some way to go. More jobs need to be created, especially for young people. But the outlook is improving, and at a much quicker pace than a lot of economists had expected.
And a faster pace is what one of the key players in space travel is pushing for. SpaceX, owned by technology entrepreneur Elon Musk, wants to have daily launches into space. This week, SpaceX aims to launch a Falcon 9 rocket, if all goes to plan, which will be its 11th trip to the International Space Station under a $4.2 billion contract from NASA. But as Richard Waters, West Coast Bureau Chief, says, SpaceX has some way to go before a schedule of daily launches.
Elon Musk's private space company SpaceX is still quite a long way from its target, which is to fly almost daily to really bring down the cost of launch. This will only be the 6th launch of the year, which about puts it on a par with last year. But we're just getting into a very important period for SpaceX. They're trying to get 4 rockets up in June, and then in the 3rd quarter, the first test flight of the Falcon Heavy, which is the rocket that will take humans into space. So an important few months ahead.
And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London. Goodbye.